Welcome to the Daisy Integration Advantage podcast, where technology meets design at the cutting edge of innovation. Join your hosts, Bert Herrero, Brian Bishop, and Nick Mark, as they explore the latest trends, technology, and strategies transforming the world of luxury building. Whether you're shaping skylines or reimagining spaces, discover your competitive edge with insights from industry leaders and pioneers. This is the future of building. This is the Daisy Integration Advantage.
Welcome to the Daisy Integration Advantage. We've got Nick back to this week, so
glad to be here.
Bert's here. Thank you, bud. And we've got our guest, David Laikind from Rosewater Energy. One I really wanted to get here sooner than later, talk about some really important topics today. And I'll let you do some introduction, David, about the history of the company yourself. Let's do an overview.
Perfect. Thank you. And thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. I've enjoyed talking with you in the past, Brian. So Rosewater is going into its 15th year now. And Joe Piccirilli, who's been a fixture in our industry for going on 50 years, started Sound Advice, started Avid. And he noticed that there's a problem that we get blamed for all the time of things failing in people's homes. And what he set out to develop while he was at Avid was a way that we could cure this. And he found that it wasn't the products we're putting in, it wasn't the industry as a whole. We've really grown up as an industry, but it's the power that's coming into the home. Before digital in an analog world, when the power sagged, your lights would turn brown. Today, they flicker on and off, and then the LED lights don't last as long. Right. And so that's kind of started this whole thing. And, what we've noticed is that we're going to put more microprocessors into people's homes in the coming years than we ever have in the past. There was an interesting study. I'm sure you guys all remember the blue screen of death. We all were on stage and say, well, at that point, right? IBM did a study, and they found that the average home computer sees 120 power anomalies a month. Wow. So if you replace the word computer with microprocessor, all of these devices that we're putting in people's homes see 120 power anomalies a month. And in your designing circuit boards, the first thing that you want to do is eliminate heat. So when the voltage sags down, it creates heat and it shortens the life of all of our products. What Rosewater is doing is they're starting to move beyond the rack, as all of you are doing too, right? We're putting light fixtures in everybody's homes. Everything is starting to move around, but then you start looking at tankless water heaters, touchless plumbing, appliances. Brian, you and I have got a client that's gone through a lot of small appliances and big appliances, and it's all grid related that we get blamed for. So, while we try to control our destiny in clients' homes so that we can provide them with the best experience possible, Rosewater's goal is to really shore up the foundation that everything that we do rests on, and that's the power coming to the house. The utility's responsibility ends at the meter, and it is our responsibility to protect our home from the utility, which is an odd thing. But that's really, at the end of the day, what it's all about. So that's the goal of Rosewater. We've been growing. We're privately held. We're self-funded. We have a world-class manufacturer that builds exclusively for us. And we've been growing every single year, just organically, going out and reaching out to dealers and people like Daisy to help us get into the clients that they work with.
Right. I mean, the ability to protect the entire home if you need to, or your critical devices at the panel level is so much more effective than trying to do it at the edge, right? We all have to do power protection. We have our watt boxes, we have our big dog secure, big dog power, and they're great, but and they're convenient for other reasons, but they're not doing triple conversion. They're not cleaning up the power necessarily into it. They're surge protection, but getting that pure sine wave in those voltage dips and everything that affect the low voltage electronics. I mean, I think everybody's seen their wall warts die on smaller devices and sort of wondered why. Well, yes, mostly because they're manufactured in China and they're cheap, but they're also very susceptible to, to voltage shags and all that and spikes. And it happens a lot more than people see. And Dave, Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
It's interesting because you notice we don't have fuses in things anymore.
Right.
And
Right.
then they've developed these little devices called an MOV,
Resetting. Right.
and they're resettable fuses. But it's like water erosion. The more often you use it, the longer it takes to heal. And so you have something that, it power sags, it stops working and went into protect, and it used to come back up, and then it takes longer to come back up and longer. And then it's a service call because it's not coming back up. And then you agree that it's defective, you send it back to the factory and they go, thing works like a champ. And it's these things that are the annoyances for our clients. And quite frankly, annoyances for our teams as well.
All right.
Agreed with that.
David, could you just walk us through kind of the structure and maybe explain a little bit what triple conversion means? But so, like, what's the food chain here? You go from grid to the house, then what?
So what we do is from the grid power coming in, we convert that to DC or
Okay.
battery power. And we do that in real time all the time. We do not have a transfer switch. So all the power that's coming in to my device, it's immediately converted to DC. And then we immediately convert it back to AC. And we use a patented device. It's an off-the-shelf product. These are inverters. Inverters convert battery power to house power. And so we convert this back in. And part of the patent on this is that I'm able to guarantee my output plus or minus 1%,
Mm-hmm.
where the grid and the utilities guarantee in spec of plus or minus 10%.
Uh-huh.
Right. So by taking it from the AC back to DC and then back to AC again, I can guarantee a perfect 120 volts at the outlet, perfect sine wave, so that everything works constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike a battery backup system, which waits for voltage to go down and then it transfers over. Generators do the same thing. They have that transfer switch. So the unique part of my devices is that no matter what's happening outside, as the current's going like this, if it sags down, my batteries make up that difference in voltage.
Mm-hmm.
And if it surges up, my batteries absorb that difference in voltage,
Okay.
so that I'm always able to output that proper voltage that all of the devices want. And as the technology becomes more microprocessor controlled, that 120 volts becomes much more critical.
Sure. And then do those batteries hold the load for a period of time as well, or are they strictly kind of there to act as a buffer for the incoming power?
They're strictly there to act as a buffer. My inverters hold the load themselves.
Got it. Yep.
Right. So, and as Brian mentioned, we're at the panel level. So everything that's on that panel is connected to my device, so that everything that's on that electrical panel is always getting that protected or that clean power coming through it. Right. So we use clean power in a way that is more of very specific versus, the way we generate the power.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like having a water filtration system in your home.
Mm-hmm.
It's like your own power grid.
Yeah, it's like your own power regeneration. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
That's
does that
awesome.
make sense?
It's outside the realm of there's no other way to do it, right? Like we have, we don't have a lot of options, and there's, it took Rosewater to sort of like lead the charge, I think, and say, hey, you know what, here's the problem. Here's an actual solution rather than a patch fix. So that was really what we've dealt with up until now.
Right. When Joe started Rosewater, I mean, solar was something the do-it-yourselfers did, right? And now it's gotten to this, the media's gotten behind it and the government's gotten behind it and all the credits that have come and gone and what have you. So we've always taken a look, let's look at power, making sure it's clean. And we're pretty agnostic to how we get that power coming in, whether it's from something like Brightfault or generators. We don't really care on that. Same thing on the breaker side. If they want to use span panels or smart panels or just whatever panel happens to be in the house, 60% of our projects are existing homes. They already know they've got issues there versus a new construction where they're hoping they don't have issues. Can work in specifically with whatever's inside the home, and we don't have to have specific equipment to make our product work within that.
And I
So
think
he-
that being platform agnostic is important with that, right?
yeah,
Like you said.
absolutely. And another design criteria of ours is that there's no product that's made specifically for Rosewater. So all of the components inside my product are off the shelf components. Most of them are patented. They're put together in a very specific way. And my manufacturer in the enterprise side that they work on, they're considered to be the gold standard, based on this design. So in a data center, which is one of their primary clients, telecoms, broadband cable companies, they're expected to be on site for a minimum of 20 years and have 5 nines of uptime. So it's 99.59% of the time that system always has to be up and running and working. They can't have that downtime.
Yeah.
Wife expects when she hits buy on Amazon that she's going to get that confirmation immediately. Funny how that works, I wish there was a pause button there sometimes, but it is what it is.
Hey, so David, speaking about the mix being 60% residential, while the other 40%, let's say, is from the new construction realm. And I like the way you put it. They hope that they don't have any problems. And, typically those are the ones that usually have the problems because they're building a mega mansion or some type of bigger sized home than what was there before. But
Correct.
it's still being fed by the same power lines and transmissions and transfers that are out on the road, right? So the more and more of these homes that you put up in the areas, the more fault you have in the power coming into your home. But so that our design build community really starts to understand, why is it so important to lead with this when we're in the planning stages of a home? And do you have any scenarios where they didn't plan for it and Rosewater showed up to the rescue and made a difference, right? And really made a believer.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, and you're absolutely correct. I mean, Florida, where, Joe is based out of and our corporate headquarters is, Joe moved out there in the 70s and they had 7 million people living there. And the intercoastal was made up of these little 2,000 square foot bungalows, right? Uh,
Right.
you move forward to 2025, there are 25 million people living there.
Wow.
The intercoastal, I think the smallest home is 10,000 square feet, and they go up a lot bigger than that. Plus they park their yachts on it that they pull off that shore power. And they built their first power plant in the last couple of years and put it online. And they've been feeding off the same garden hose for all these big homes. So um, that's the challenge. And a lot of our builders are aware of this because they get the same pain phone calls that we do.
Mm.
We did a project for a client. He's got 2 homes in Lake Tahoe at 8,000 feet. There's for his ski vacation. One's for him and his wife, one's for his kids. And they have 28 days out of the year they get to use this particular property. And for the last 10 years, the first 7 days are people coming in and out of the house trying to get things fixed, get it back up and running, right? So they're losing 7 out of their 28 days by people coming in and out of the house. The year before they called us, things were broken to a point they couldn't get parts. So they left. And that was the end of that vacation. We were able to and fortunate to work with them, we put a 100 amp unit in each home on the things that were the problem childs inside those homes. Next year when they showed up, they had all 28 days with nobody else inside the house. So for them, that privacy and time that they got back was invaluable. They purchased a house um, in Miami area. We're NDA'd on it. But in the Miami area, it's a large home, is a 1,200 amp service. And the first thing that they said was, we have to put the Rosewater in there for the entire house because when we show up, we just want it to work.
Right.
From that, property managers talk, and we've done just about every other house up and down the street because they got tired of getting blamed by their clients as to why things kept breaking all the time when they showed up. So those are the challenges that we have with them is that there's usually not a lot of space. We need space for this product. It's designed to handle a lot of current. And, finding the space is a challenge. We're in a lot of garages. We've found a supplier for outdoor enclosures. We can put them outside now. And that's the biggest challenge on the existing homes. But every time we go into an existing home, we cut service calls and the failure of products by an order of about 90%.
Wow.
And it's consistent every single time. We did a project up in the Hamptons early on in our delivering product. They were integrator. He called us up. He was out there as a takeover because the first integrator was bad because they're out there once a week, right? He got blamed for everything. They called Joe up. We put a 100 amp unit into it. Service calls dropped by 90%. I'm in 5 of their homes right now. Just keep doing the next one, because again, they show up and everything just works again for them. And when you have multiple homes, that's really what's your time worth, right? And unfortunately, they don't know about the products and they're learning about the products. So we're not looking for VC money or anything like that. We're going to grow organically, and it's through companies and people like yourself is how we get the word out there for that.
That's why we're talking about it now.
Absolutely.
Do you have difficulty communicating the value of this? Like, is there it is kind of a new category in some respect. Well, it is a new category, right?
Mhm.
Living in a new world with everything being on microchips. So are you finding that people have to experience it to understand it, or can you educate people beforehand?
You can educate people. The challenge that we have is that the mainstream media has said that if you put batteries in people's home, life is going to be great forever and ever, and you don't have any more issues.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's not necessarily the case. So you're kind of swimming upstream against that. In the homes that we get involved with, if we can talk with the client himself, a lot of times we can show the value proposition and they get it. And they may not pull the trigger right then, but it's always in the back of their mind. When we're working through a second party, property managers, estate managers, client reps that are trying to save them money, sometimes that can be more of a challenge because I have to allow that person to relay it on. Brian and I were talking earlier, we've gotten on calls with clients. We're happy to do that. We get in calls with client representatives and property managers. And a lot of times they'll understand exactly what we're trying to get across. Then it's, is the pain worth the big stack of money that they have? Right. And we're finding that conversations we had a year ago, we get the phone call saying, okay, we're ready to pull the trigger now. Right. Because they've gotten to the point where they can't handle the pain anymore.
Got it.
And it is painful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's when you have no other way to protect, like low voltage lighting. If you have DIN panels, there's nothing in between. There's no other way to protect those circuits. So
I was talking to one client and he's like, look, in the foyer, if a Ketra light goes out, it's only $1,000. I'm like, I understand. Well, how many lights do you have in the foyer? Well, there's 30. Okay. Well, how tall is the foyer? That's 30 feet. So I'm going to spend 2 days building scaffolding. I'm going to replace all 30 of them now because while I'm up there, might as well do 30 instead of one.
Right.
So there's a couple of days, and that's $30,000. Right. Then a couple of days more to take down the scaffolding. And I just interrupted your entire lifestyle for a week for one lamp. And when you thought of it that way, it's a whole different story than it's only $1,000 pain point.
And to speak to the builders, I mean, and they're eating crow because they're having to warranty, for our trade partners out there, they're warranting appliances and everything.
Right.
Absolutely.
And they're sick of, the conversations I'm having, they're sick of replacing that stuff. And as we have on-demand water heaters and all that stuff, this stuff is way more susceptible to this stuff as well. So it's getting worse for them. And we've got a solution for them. We just need to start talking about it and getting the conversation going.
On-demand water heaters. I had a call from a client we talked to a year or two before, and she called up and she says, all right, I'm finally done. I have 8 tankless water heaters, and every other week I have to go through and reset them all. It's just, and again, it's just the pain, right? The builders, to your point, supply the appliances. They get the phone calls, and they don't know how to fix it either, right? We met with an appliance supplier. He does La Cruno stoves. They start at $100,000, and he said my biggest problem is the grid, and they realize it too. So as an industry, we need to partner with these people because they're looking for a solution. Right. And that's one of the reasons why we work through integrators like Daisy, is because aside from the builder, we have the most relationship and the deepest relationship with the client of the home. We're there maintaining the networks and the lighting and all of the different things that support their lifestyle. And that's our entryway. And our integrators that are successful are saying, look, I want to protect my rack, I want to protect my lighting, but let's look at the other technology in the house and how do we protect that
Right.
to make your lifestyle more valuable, right? And we always go back to privacy and time. That's the two things I can say to everybody, that's the two things every single one of our clients want the most of, right? And they can't put price tags on it.
Mm. Yeah.
Yep.
That's a very good point.
David, what about because you guys do custom tailor the solution, right? Because there's 100 amp, there's 200 amp, there's even 3-phase solutions. Like, what's the process look like for looking at I know this, but let's talk to our partners and let's walk them through the process of what it looks like to discovery mode through the process of implementing a Rosewater system right from the beginning.
So we've developed a power plan method. It's something we've been working on for about 7 years. And it is a way to sit down with the property manager, the client, the builder, whoever we're interfacing with, and to look at the different categories inside the house and isolate for them based on importance. What are the things that they want to protect most? The bigger the house, there's much more products that you're going to be covering on there. And so we sit down with the client and we talk about the grid, and we start out, quite frankly, with a very innocent question, which is, Bert, what's your power plan for the project? Right. And when we started asking that question, it's like, well, hopefully FP&L is bringing me electricity. Today we're looking at a generator Tesla. Why do you ask? So we get that permission to have this conversation. We talk about the fact, and our clients read about it in Wall Street Journal. They've experienced in their existing home the things that have failed. So we talk through that, and we work through the power plan to decide the items that we want to cover and to protect. If it's a new build construction, we want to look at the one-line drawings, the panel schedules, and we're going to work off that scope of work from the power plan to really isolate down to those specific items, and we'll size it according to that. On an existing home, a lot of times panels are all over the place, and relacing panels to get load specific onto one panel is not effective, cost effective at most. So we can put a meter or a test meter on the incoming electricity, and we do an electrical stress test on the house. We turn everything on as hard as we can. We open up all the appliance doors, we turn all the appliances on, set the heat to 80 degrees, turn on the air conditioning, plug the car chargers in, get everything running as hard as we possibly can, and then just see exactly what that house is drawing. A lot of newer homes draw 30 to 50% of what their service is rated for. From there, we can then say, this section has the majority of the things that we want to look at, and let's protect that section. In some cases, we've been able to put a 200 amp unit in and cover the entire house, and we just carve the car chargers off onto their own little island. And that particular house, the product is outside an outdoor enclosure. It's gone through 2 hurricanes, and the client loves us. We're going into 2 more homes for him.
Hmm.
So on an existing, it's easier to nail that down. On new construction, with those drawings, the one lines and panel schedules, we can work with the electrician, we can work with the electrical engineer to isolate the loads that we want to cover and create a critical load panel. Or for the electrician, we tell them it's a generator panel. They understand we just want to put on there specifically what we want. And then from that, we can protect that panel. And we want to be very rifle shot. While we have done whole home, like in a brand new house, 80% of the outlets that code requires you put in will probably never be used.
Right.
So
Right.
don't spend any more money on it.
Right.
A motor is much more robust than than the controller, right? So a Jandy pool controller I want to cover, but I don't necessarily need to cover the pool pump motors.
Right.
Or I want to cover the controllers for the garage doors, but not necessarily the garage door motors.
Right.
Same thing with elevators, right? So by taking that more rifle shot approach, then we're able to really isolate down to 1-2 panels and be very specific on cover that versus trying to do the whole house and then trying to do load shedding. Load shedding doesn't work for my product because I'm feeding that panel from my inverters all the time. I have to size that panel up to exactly what my inverters can put out.
Mhm.
Because if all of them are on at the same time, I have to be able to support that load. Whereas with the backup system, you can load shed down to only cover what it's doing when it's pulling from battery or the generator.
Mhm.
Because off generator, off battery, it's got a bus bar. It's just passing all the way power through.
Right.
It doesn't really care about that.
Yeah.
For us, it's much more important that we isolate down to specifics and that cover those panels specifically.
And does your team provide, design support for that, for the electrical riser diagrams and so forth?
We do. Our goal is to teach our dealers how to do this because at the end of the day, it's just math. Right? It's
Yeah.
kind of like doing lighting control back in the day, right? You had RPM modules went into a can. It's on a 20 amp breaker. It's 1920D rated. It's 1780 on a 15 amp breaker. You do all the math to it and it gets wired in there. So for us, it's math. What is the load that we're going to cover on it? We find that for the most part, we work together hand in hand for the first 2 or 3. And then they go, okay, I got another project, just double check my math. And then they're off and running from there. You get into some of the houses that are big houses, and then you're doing a lot of design work, and we have a design fee for that that we charge, and then we try to work with that electrical engineer because they're typically stamped projects for that, and then we'll interface with them to make sure everything goes to them appropriately. And because they stamp it, they can give us demand load, which is lower than what the breaker sizes are. And so we can be very specific in what we're covering and make sure we have headroom, but give them the best performance for as few products as possible. So um, internally, we don't provide stamped drawings. We can provide generic drawings for that. But on those big ones where we need design fees, we're typically bringing in working with the electrical engineer at that point. So
It makes sense.
that's the issue.
Yeah. David, are there any tips, trade secrets, things that you would want homeowners and designers to know to be able to future proof their projects, right?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we've run into projects, and I'll go to you as a franchise and a business owner, right? We work with clients, and we know that they want to do this, but sometimes they just have check fatigue, right? They've been
Right.
writing checks, and that $5 million house is 7. Right, through no fault of their own, but it's more money than they anticipated, right?
Always.
It never fails, right?
Right.
And so what we always recommend is, look, let's plan for this. Let's get the drawings. Let's get the panels all wired for this type of a product. It's kind of like if you're going to pull 2 Cat 6 to a location, we pull 4 because it's just easier to do it now, right? Because you never know if you might need it down the road, right?
Sure.
So if we plan for the space and we plan for the panels, then when they're ready for it, the wiring's all done there. Now all we got to do is just interface. right? And then we can provide that protection much more cost effectively. So I recommend, whether you're going to do the Rosewater or not, let's isolate lifestyle critical panels and create the space to put something there to protect that. And you want something that's going to be a robust device. You don't want something that's a lot of rack mounted pieces stuck into a can and hoping it's going to, cover you for the amount of period of time that you want. And from that point, then it's just the feed has to get separated so it can go in and out of my product and feed that sub panel. And it's a relatively seamless uh, uh, process at that point in time. Um,
Yeah.
I've got a dealer in Memphis, Tennessee, and that's his favorite. I understand. Let's prep for it, because in 6 months, when you're ready for it, we'll be all ready for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Makes sense. Hey, just an off-topic question, and because Brian tells me I wear the tinfoil hat in this group, how does it protect against things like EMPs?
Nothing protects against EMP.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah, nothing does.
Glad to hear that answer.
Yeah. You can put tinfoil on all your outlets and stuff, and it's still going to take
Right.
all that stuff out. It is what it is.
Wipe it out. Right.
Or you can put a Faraday cage around your
Faraday cage. Right.
Right. You'll never get any cell service inside there.
You'll never get anything.
It's all good, right? The other one I get is, can you protect me from lightning strikes? Well, if the lightning hits a chimney, I don't have a dog in that fight. I'm sorry.
Right.
I have a project I did in Florida, and I got a panic phone call on a Sunday afternoon that the whole system's down and everybody's upset and nothing's working. And it turned out that lightning hit the access point that was bolted to a tree. And it came in from the cat cable, the entire network, and every single network jack in the rack. Well, it shut it all down. The Rosewater was still working, trying to power it, just nothing could come out, right? So we've had projects where the transformer got hit and that power main feed come in, and I stopped it from there. But if it comes in from the outside of it, there's not a lot you can do. Fiber optic is your best friend.
There's other solutions.
Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
solution,
That's it.
right? But so far we can't get lightning over glass, so that's a good solution right there. So
Yeah. I last year in August, so I live on a 4-acre property, and it's really long, and a tree got hit literally off of the roadway, which was on my yard. It wiped out my entire gate system, my DS2, Control 4, everything went down, everything gone, right? But
Yep.
then it traveled into the house and it nailed some of the equipment in my house. But somehow my barn, which is 400 yards away from the house, or really I should say 400 yards from the tree, it's about 200 yards from the house, wiped out everything inside my barn.
yes.
I'm like, how did it go that far? Right? That's lightning.
Yeah, I've seen it
It
where
just goes.
blown dimmers out of a hallway into the opposite wall and left imprints there into the wall where the dimmer
Wow.
the drywall.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
It's when God becomes a bully, there's not a lot you can do about it. Yeah, it's why you buy insurance at the end of the day, right? So
Yeah, sure.
But
Sure.
the fact that I can protect on a transformer hit, though, that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah. I mean, you have multiple. I mean, you have fault tolerance right within your system just by having.
Yeah, so that that device you were talking that replaces fuses, we're rated for 140,000 volt spikes. It's all non-sacrificial. This is enterprise, level protection that we put in. So I cover current and voltage on the incoming power line for that. The other design criteria of ours is that there's no single point of failure. If you look at, I'm going to pick on Tesla for a second. A Tesla Powerwall has an inverter and has a battery, and if that inverter dies, that thing is dead.
Yep.
We have, in my smallest unit, 8 inverters. If I lose one, I don't lose capacity. So the advantage is that it's not I have to get a truck out there right this second to get the house back up and running. I can schedule it, go out there, hot swap it without turning power off to the house, and then send it back and not have to worry about interrupting the client and their lifestyle on that, so
Yeah.
And you can get that stuff to the dealer quickly too, right? Like it's
Yeah. So we advance replace for the, for these products, and our warranty is 3 years nose to tail. So, we advance replace. Since we've been putting product in the field, of replaceable product, my failure rate's less than 1%.
Awesome.
So, we're again in a data center, it's expected to be up. The other advantages is once it's installed, Daisy's team can go out there and maintain it. I don't have to bring an electrician back on site.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and your involvement in the project too is just, it's paramount because it's really, it's,
Well, and if there is something where it's catastrophic, I mean, we'll get somebody there within 24 hours.
Right.
I got field engineers that I can get out on site if I need to get them out. Planes are easy.
from the integrator's point
I
of
love
view,
that.
like that's huge, that's an emergency scenario. That's putting out a fire for us.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
It used to be if the TV didn't work, you got an issue. And now if the power goes down, that's a little bit of an issue at that point. So
We're staring down the barrel of that too. I mean, we've got 150-year-old infrastructure here in New England, and we're just putting more and more strain on it with no upgrades to the actual underlying
what could
infrastructure.
possibly go wrong with that?
Right. The future shall tell.
that.
Oh boy.
We'll find out coming soon.
Thank God we've got Rosewater.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Well, and to that point, data centers are really adding to the strain of our grid.
Big time.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Big time.
While it may not be in your backyard, it's still on that same grid system, and it's still pulling that strain. And so I was reading a report I was telling Brian about that currently data centers are pulling as much power as New York City during peak usage.
Think about that.
It's
Wow.
power, right?
That's
And
crazy.
and they hire companies to scour the grid for open capacity so that they can put a data center there.
They'll put them in someone's, they'll put it in a backyard, basically, in a subdevelopment. And, now these people it's insanely noisy as well. Because some of them are generating their own power too. It's just.
They're starting to get to that point because they have to, and they're being forced to. But I got a call from a guy in Nebraska because we have the worst power in the country. But they put a lot of data centers there, right? And so it's just what used to be fine is no longer fine.
Right.
So
when you had like 3 or 4 farms that were on, and now they've thrown a data center on their long road. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And these are things that weren't thought about. I mean, it was lack of planning for the infrastructure from an.
in the 60s, we built out the infrastructure and we're going to electrify the United States. And, and after they were done with it, okay, we're done. Right. And then they just moved on. We just keep making the slice of the pie smaller. But if you remember the fire in Camp California in 2015,
yes,
Santa Ana winds, really high winds, it broke a 90-year-old bracket on a high tension power line. And when that swung down, it arced off the base of it. And that started that fire. It was 90 years old. Nobody's maintaining this stuff.
Wow.
So now we have to maintain it. And all the areas that, have these beautiful homes are all power lines that are up in the air. When the windstorms come through, they just sit there and bang back and forth. And then we get the calls the next morning to go fix things. Because nobody blames the utility.
No,
the utility just points the finger anyway.
Yeah.
Right. Nobody blames the utility.
Yeah, right.
That's a challenge.
Just like nobody wants to blame Comcast. It's always
it's
or whoever, right?
Right.
But getting the internet in the house, and it's well, let's look there first.
Well, it's the blanket term.
Yeah.
My Wi-Fi's down. Because the perception of the client is that's all they know.
Something internal, not external.
Right? They love it that we deal with the the calls to the ISP, in that white glove approach. But we have also seen a lot of the lack of support from those companies more than the client does. So I think we see that with the utility.
Be there in the next 3 days between 10 and 5.
Right.
Yeah. Love that.
Man.
So what's on the planning books in terms of where the product where you see it evolving and potential changes and
Yeah, that's a great question. We're always evaluating battery technology, for example. We use sealed lead acid batteries. They're the most recycled product on the planet. I don't have restrictions that a lot of times lithium does.
Right.
Like New York City, the 5 boroughs, there's no lithium going in there. It is what it is, right? The fire department has put a ban on that.
Huh.
So we're always monitoring that and looking. We're looking at one technology that's really cool. As soon as they can build more than one at a time, we're going to have a little bit deeper conversations with them. Um, we're looking at two different approaches. One, we're looking at something for high rises, apartments, condos.
That's
That
good.
vertical living has a real good opportunity there. It's placement. If it's hard to place it into a big home, it's even harder into a condo or a high rise. So we're looking for that. Um, and then we're looking for bigger systems. Uh, Quite frankly, I could do a 400 amp unit and be successful with it tomorrow. So it's all the engineering on that. So that's what I have Joe working on more. Joe is more on the sales side. That's what he enjoys, but he's working on the engineering side for that. Um, so we work closely with our manufacturing, those suppliers. There's some new inverter technology we're looking at that we're looking at implementing potentially. But we take a slower approach to it. My entry unit, it's not really entering, a Hub 20 is 9 years old. We haven't really made any changes to it, and we have no intention to make any changes. It just works,
Hmm.
right? My
There's a lot
Hub
of reasons
3,
behind that too.
what's that?
There's a lot of reasons behind that too, right, Dave? Because it's not just a matter of, the technology works, and it's you if it's not broken, don't fix it type of
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly. It's we don't have to do firmware updates all the time to this.
right.
It was built to be very robust at that point in time, and it's doing everything it needs to do. There'll be some evolutionary changes as our inverter suppliers got a new inverter out, and so we're looking at implementing that into it. Our Hub 40 was evolutionary, taking it from 100 amps to 200 amps. It gives us some more flexibility and being able to go outside. Um, both of those units can do any two legs of three phase or standard 240, 120. So it's really a flexible product. So we're looking at, again, high rises and larger systems, and keeping them in a way that has a footprint that's going to work in luxury homes,
Mhm.
right? There's companies that make them for, that we compete, that our companies compete with on the data center side that are getting into really large, but they're not really designed to go in somebody's home,
Mhm.
Yeah, I wondered. The data centers must have some version of this that's just different, but
I'm
Well,
trying to
ours,
engineer that into a luxury home. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
sure it's
yeah.
such a challenge.
so one of the things that when Joe went to our manufacturer, this is I really like your product. I just need to improve it. And when you tell a company that's doing $500 million in sales that I need to improve your product, it's a little off-putting and disconcerting, right? So, but what he really wanted is the noise filtering.
Hmm.
When you stress my unit out to all four corners, you're about less than 1% THD. So I lowered the noise floor on electronics and technology inside the home just dramatically. So the clients that have really high-end theaters and high-end listening rooms, they notice right off the bat that everything runs cooler. It opens up. It's like it takes a veil of grayscale off of that image
Well, that noise floor is lowered.
because that noise floors are. And what we found from the amplifier manufacturers is their amplifiers are able to work more dynamically because they're not trying to make up that power difference.
Hmm.
So they're working in that narrow range, so they're much more dynamic and efficient, and so they don't overheat a lot. So you don't get that hot where you put your hand on it and it's really screaming hot at that point.
It's funny you say that. One of my clients is a very, true audiophile, $1 million listening room and all that. And he has an apartment in New York. And he says he'll get up at 1 or 2 in the morning to listen to his system there because audiophiles down there know that at around 1 or 2 in the morning, stuff just sounds better. Because they're
Yes.
figuring less demand on the
Right.
grid, right?
Yep.
Yep.
So
Yeah, so we could do it for him so he could join at 5 o'clock in the evening then. Yeah. To go out and glass of wine and get his sleep back. So uh
That's
but
that.
yeah, so that's kind of what we're looking at. We're just, looking at expanding it out that way. Joe's got some other things that are on his plate that he's looking at and they've been developing and working on in the background. We're just not ready to chat about yet. So but we're unlike some manufacturers in our industry where uh, they bring out products every single year and it's
Yeah.
got new buttons or whatever to it. We just don't have that need, you know.
Hmm.
Uh, the electrical industry is really boring, quite frankly. Most electricians put in a lot of mechanical devices. You look at switches and circuit breakers and what have you. We've taken computer and electronics and electrical and combined them into a box. But again, it's based off that mechanical device, which has been there since Edison brought it out, right? So there's not a lot of need to change things. It's just evolutionary growth.
David, does the product provide any sort of dashboard, either via app or web page or otherwise, that gives
Good question.
us and the client visibility on what it's doing or may have prevented? Or
Yeah, that's a great question. We do not have an app. We find that we have a web page that our clients can log into and our dealers can. We supply email alerts on various different alarm set points that we put in. Most of them are benign. AC leg voltage is high, it's AC leg voltage is low, and it's hit those thresholds. We've not baked AI into it, so whenever it hits it, it sends out an email. And we get those to our dealers, and then our dealers have the ability to log into that unit and to see the incoming power and the outgoing power by the seconds, minutes, hours, and days.
okay,
So he can see in real time exactly what's coming in and then what's going into the client's home. Um, I mentioned a dealer that I work with in Memphis, and we did a project for a client. He had bought into a lighting control system is on 16.2 that wired his brand new 10,000 square foot house with all 16.2 for every single lights fixture.
gosh,
And then they went out of business, right? So little bit of a bad day there. And we put the Rosewater in, and we took some screenshots. There was a storm going through, and it lost power in a 60-minute period about 12 times, or sagged down. But the output going into the house was perfect. And he had no idea that there was that kind of issues going on out there. So by looking at that and taking those screenshots, we shared them with the client, and he was like, "This is awesome. Glad that it's doing that job." But after a while, they're just like, as long as it's doing everything and I don't need to worry about it, they just don't care.
Right, because the problems go,
Right.
or they never have
Right,
problems to
right.
begin with because
Yeah.
it's been put in at the beginning.
Exactly.
Yep.
A lot of times no news is good news, right? It's like everything's working, everything's fine. Don't really get. I got an email from a dealer. He goes, "We keep getting these alerts. Is everything fine?" Yep. It's just saying that you're getting 260 volts in the house instead of 240. Here's your screenshot. And they're like, "Okay, we'll call the electrician, have him reach out to the utility and try to fix it."
Well, and your output metrics are on another scale because it's so finite, right? Too. I mean, we've seen the output voltage is now
Absolutely.
like
Change the scale from like 125 to 0 to like 120.2 to 120.6.
it's crazy.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
Because I'm working within that little narrow window there, so it's
that's how clean the power is. That's how perfect that sine wave is coming out of the system. It's really incredible.
it's really incredible when you see exactly what's coming in and then what's going out. People are pretty amazed on that. And sadly, again, we changed our conversation from the category and the gear and all the technology to the lifestyle portion, because the clients that want this, they don't care about the technology and the gear. They just want to know that it's going to, do what it's supposed to do. An app for us, we looked at it and we did a lot of studies with clients, and like, I'll never use it. We'll spend a lot of money on it, but I'll never use it because I really
It's
don't care. My
worthless.
property manager might look at it occasionally, but I'm not going to look at it. Right.
Right. Right.
They'll use the app for the Rivian to start the Rivian when they forgot the key,
Right.
but that's about it, so.
I mean, David, I think you got stories too. I know you have a builder in California. I think it was a memorable partnership that you have that stood out from me that you told me about quite a while ago. That
Yeah.
I wouldn't even build right without a Rosewater system going into one of his homes, right?
Yeah. So we, one of our dealers, this gentleman came on board with us early on. He's known Joe back in the day, and called Joe up and said, look, I got a builder. I've taken over this project and I know it's a power issue. And can you come out and meet with us and the builder? He's doing this development. He is the guy in the marketplace. Just see if we can fix this because there's constant power issues. And the builder, what he told us later on, he goes, I don't want to be their bartender. I don't want to hear the crying when they drop down me on 4th of July because things stop working, right? So Joe went out there and met with him, and the builder's sitting in the back like this, because he's heard all this BS before, and Joe's like, look, it's power. And this is really early on when we started the company. And the guy goes, what if it isn't? And Joe said, I'll tell you what, I'll put it in. If it doesn't cure the problem, I'll pull it out at my expense. Builder said, put it in writing? Sure. So we put that in there and all the problems stopped. Builder looked at the dealer and says, I got 3 more houses for you, and then wrote it into his contract. I'm not building a house without the Rosewater.
Wow.
Because again, he doesn't want the phone calls like we don't want the phone calls.
Right.
And what he said was when the control system drops down, the client makes 2 phone calls. They call me and they call you because they know that I'm going to make you do what your job is, right? Because, that's kind of their mentality at that point in time is if I hit enough hot spots and hit enough buttons, somebody's going to fix this for me.
Mhm.
And so that's why we're finding builders are a great resource because they deal with the pain all the time.
Right.
And they're just looking for a solution on it. So, but that's unfortunately that gentleman's retiring.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but we've enjoyed working with them, and the dealer's got another one that is doing the same thing now. So
Good. It's good. It's going to market
Well,
that.
if anything, it's a good spokesperson.
he's a great spokesperson, right? So, and then we're also starting to do more with estate managers and construction managers because we're
Right.
finding that those are the guys, again, they're dealing with the pain on a different level. They've got a client that has 5, 6, 8, 10 houses. And I just, we had one estate manager say, look, I get 48 hours notice where they're going to show up. And I'm scrambling to get people out there to try to make the house work before they show up. So if you can put that in and it makes it so that I don't have to do that,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
the money right off the bat, just the flight saves us a ton.
Yeah.
Yep.
That makes sense.
But yeah, it's enjoyable working with this. I've been in the industry for 30 years, and it's fun working with a product that you get immediate results once you put it in. You see how it does and how it impacts the project, right? And we find that once you get that first one in, after that, it just starts to kind of click along. To that end, one of the things that we're doing right now is we've dusted off of Joe's sales training that he did for Sound Advice back in the day. To work for Sound Advice, you had to go through a sales training process, right? And so we're doing sales training now for our dealers. It's not category. It's not about the gear. It's about building trust in the conversation, helping have that sales conversation, then taking that sales conversation and added power as a category into that. And we did it with a large dealer in Arizona, and we got immediate results right out of it. We've had really good response on this because as an industry, there's a lot of dealers that are out there that are doing business that have never had sales training, right? They've kind of learned the hard way, right? Going out there and being told, no, you didn't learn not to say that anymore, So this has proven to be real successful for us and allowing us to grow our business even more that way. But we also find for the dealers, other things kind of move along for the client as well. And we're able to get more technology that benefits the client versus just selling things because we can.
I'm glad we had this conversation.
Yeah. This is very, very, very
Yeah.
interesting.
me an eye opener to people like, I get nerded out on it. So David hears from me probably more than he wants to. But-
Not at all. I love getting the phone calls. It shows that you're looking and you're interested, right?
all the
So
time, right? Like I'm because I believe it's important. So it's one of those things that's a necessity. And that's why we're having the combo. That's why I want trade partners and I want people in the trades to know about it. And to know about Rosewater, the solutions there, the Daisy's their path to that, and that we want to talk about this stuff. So here we
yeah,
are.
and one of the things that we have that we can implement with Daisy is we have a one full CEU for AIA, and it's under health, safety, and wellness, which is always a challenging credit to get. We like to do those in person. And then we have a presentation that we work with builders. And that one's been well received as well. So we're doing very tailored presentations to these industry partners of ours that really kind of speak to the points and the pain points that they see.
Thank you for tuning in to the Daisy Integration Advantage podcast, where technology meets design at the cutting edge of innovation. If you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the show with your network. Stay tuned for more insights, trends, and strategies that are shaping the future of luxury building. From all of us at Daisy, we appreciate your support and look forward to exploring the next frontier of building together. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible